What we're about to see is, in a roundabout way, a real joy to behold because it's a battle of titans, so to speak. Progressive commentator on MSNBC, Mehdi Hasan, one of the toughest interviewers I have ever seen, one of my favorite political commentators, interviews one of my favorite Democratic congresspeople, progressive constitutional scholar Jamie Raskin. And it's actually a pretty tough interview for Congressman Raskin, in which Mehdi Hasan asks Raskin, hey, listen, when you were in the majority, why didn't you push harder to hold Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, accountable for his probable acts of corruption? But before we unpack all that, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell. Maybe check out my Patreon. I'd appreciate the support. All right, folks, so I really want to jump into it. This is about a 2-minute clip. It's part of a broader interview. And again, these are two of my favorite people. Mehdi Hasan is, he's just an amazing journalist. He's an amazing interviewer, amazing debater. So too, actually, in terms of debate, is Jamie Raskin. He's a constitutional scholar. He is a powerhouse. He's recovering from cancer as well. So we're good to see that he is on the mend. But Mehdi kind of holds Congressman Raskin's feet to the fire about this issue that we've discussed repeatedly, which is holding Jared Kushner accountable, Donald Trump's former son-in-law who worked in the Trump White House, who received $2 billion from the Saudis, holding him accountable in a world in which Republicans in Congress are obsessed with Hunter Biden, President Joe Biden's civilian son. So we're going to play the clip and we will unpack it all together.
Congressman, it's clear the president's son Hunter will be involved in any potential impeachment inquiry in some shape or form. Recently, you urged Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, the Republican, to investigate Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, for his foreign business dealings, especially with the Saudis. Why didn't Democrats do more to investigate Kushner when you were in the majority? The Republicans have succeeded in turning Hunter into a boogeyman, even though Hunter never worked a day in the White House. Yet Jared, who did, is doing just fine.
Before Congressman Raskin responds, I want to point out, because I think I've discussed this either in a video that I did or in a collaboration with my buddy Luke Beasley, which is that the propaganda effort that Republicans have been initiating against President Biden via Hunter Biden has at least in one way been successful, in that the majority of Americans do believe that President Biden was involved with Hunter Biden's business dealings. Now, they still believe that Donald Trump and his family are more corrupt, so there's a silver lining there. But based on no evidence whatsoever, Republicans have been very effective in that particular propaganda angle. So what Mehdi Hasan's pointing out is, listen, Republicans have been this successful in weaponizing a nothing burger. You at least had quite a bit of predicate and quite a bit of reason to scrutinize Jared Kushner because he was a White House employee. Why you all had more at your disposal to make something effective politically with it? Why didn't you?
Well, remember, Jared's essential crime against the Constitution and the Republic came right after the Trump administration ended. It was, I think, the day after it ended that he created the corporation, which he proceeded to endow with $2 billion from the homicidal crown prince of Saudi Arabia and then other sovereign wealth funds from Gulf monarchs. So all of this is an ongoing story right now in the Biden administration. And of course, the Republicans are in control of the House just narrowly by 4 votes. But even Chairman Comer has conceded that Jared Kushner crossed an ethical line. And so all we're saying is, look, Jared Kushner was actually working in the White House. He was in the administration. Hunter Biden was never in the Biden administration.
I get that.
And before Mehdi pushes back, I do want to say, so again, as a reminder, when Jared Kushner got that $2 billion investment from the Saudis, number one, he's not this genius real estate mogul with a long history of real estate success. As a matter of fact, one of his most notable moments was a colossal real estate failure in New York. I think it was 666 Park Avenue or 665 Park Avenue, one of the worst real estate deals in the history of this country. And the Sovereign Wealth Fund, which manages those $2 billion, who advises the Crown Prince about where and when and to whom you should invest this money, they advised not investing in Jared Kushner because it didn't make financial sense. But we'll turn it back to Mehdi.
Just wondering why you didn't do this earlier. I'm just wondering, when you were in charge in 21 and 22, why you didn't do more on this front.
Well, I think we've been doing everything we can to try to catch up with what we know. And what we're trying to find out is exactly what did Saudi Arabia get out of this arrangement and what is the nature of all the money that's been pouring in. Now, we know that they covered up the assassination of Jamal Khashoggi, the drawing and quartering by the paid assassins who were sent by the Crown Prince.
Yes.
We know that they were aligned with Saudi Arabia in the Yemen war, and they went there first. That was the first foreign trip that Donald Trump took. So they got a lot out of it, and we were talking about all of that at the time. But look, we're going to do a complete report on foreign government emoluments that were pocketed by Donald Trump, and we're still trying to torture out the information, which we've never gotten.
I, for one, Congressman, am looking forward to that report. Jamie Raskin, thank you so much for joining me on the show tonight.
So, Jamie Raskin mentioned that report several weeks ago. I am also waiting with bated breath for it as well. I'll be excited to see it. As a matter of fact, Jamie Raskin just recently released a very thorough debunk of the House Oversight Committee Republicans' claims about President Biden and Hunter Biden, which you should also check out. Now, I will say, in 2022, in June 2022, Democrats, when they were in the majority of House of Representatives, they did launch a probe into Jared Kushner. This is an article going back to June 2nd, 2022. House panel examining Jared Kushner over Saudi investment in new firm. The House Oversight Committee is seeking documents related to the $2 billion investment. Now, were Democrats particularly aggressive in this? It doesn't seem to be. They were being very diligent, very methodical, but they weren't being as politically ruthless and partisanly zealous in the way that Republicans are, because this was quietly going on behind the scenes. They were trying to gather evidence. They were issuing subpoenas. Democrats ramp up investigation of Kushner family business dealings. This is in December 2022, after they knew they lost the midterms. So once they saw they lost the election and were running out of time, they increased the effort. But again, Jared Kushner was not complying with subpoenas to provide information. And then this is from late August of this year, Democrats in the minority demand a subpoena on Jared Kushner's shady Saudi connections. But they're in the minority. They don't have subpoena power. It's up to James Comer, the Republican chairman of the House Oversight Committee, and he has no incentive to investigate Jared Kushner, even though he has repeatedly admitted that what Jared Kushner did was shady as hell and it crossed the ethical line. But as people pointed out, well, it's not in your political best interest to pursue this because Jared Kushner is the son-in-law of your cult leader, your political leader, Donald Trump. And James Comer has admitted, yes, it's not politically efficacious at this time, which is why he's focused on Hunter Biden. So anyway, I thought that was a great interview because, I say this as a progressive Democrat, someone who really, really likes Jamie Raskin. I think Mehdi Hasan is right to point out, listen, you guys, when you do have the power, you have to wield the power more aggressively, okay? I'm not saying that you should be as irresponsible as Republicans, but you should, when and where appropriate, absolutely appropriate the same sort of ruthlessness and zealotry with which they pursue. You shouldn't, set the house on fire, so to speak. You shouldn't be willing to raise the whole thing. But we can't have feckless incrementalism. When it is justified, you must ruthlessly wield power against Republicans because, number one, it's justified, and number two, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. They do it in situations like the Hunter Biden probe, even though, again, Hunter Biden is a civilian son of a president, a private citizen who's been investigated multiple times by the executive branch and by Republicans in the Senate and now in Congress. We should be holding Jared Kushner to an even higher standard, given that he actually wielded power as a formal official member of the Trump administration. Democrats have to eventually understand that it's not enough to be right. You also have to be right and win. Okay, you have to win. And being right doesn't necessarily mean you win. You have to wield the power you have efficaciously and effectively against a bad faith, disloyal authoritarian cult, which is the GOP.